You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Right. Okay, David, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you coming. You're exhausted. You've had a busy time this week. You've got podcast galore. You've got more podcasts next week. Look, just before we start, I just want to tell everybody, look, the reason why David's on a tour right now is to promote his latest book, The Roadmap, Escaping the Maze of Madness. And you can see I've been making my little notes and whatnot. Haven't read the whole book, but I've been flicking through it and reading chunks out of it. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it, David. But listen, I don't want to dive straight into the book. Everybody, buy the book, right? That's the summary of the podcast. Buy the book. Buy the book. Buy it as a Christmas present. Give it to your friends. Give it to someone who's fast asleep. Give it to people you don't like and you're really like even better. Like give it to people you really don't like. Give it to them as a present, right? But listen, I'm going to ask a few other questions because honestly, I can imagine going round and round saying the same thing must be freaking boring. David, I want to just talk about something else. I want to talk about something personal. How do you organize your day? What's your typical day like? You get up in the morning, like when do you get up? What do you do? I wanna know the David Icke. What happens when the alarm goes off?
Well, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm writing a book, then I'll probably get up about 5 o'clock and write and research all day till maybe 6 o'clock. I've written basically all of my books between 5 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night. Wow. Because once I get into the evening, I go into a different mode, don't we, what you'd call it, and it's not conducive to writing. Then... do
you take any breaks?
No, not really, no. I mean, when I'm writing a book and researching a book, it's like you go into a different field, a different energetic field. And what I love about writing books is I know from past experience that when I start, information's going to start coming synchronistically in many and various ways to take me further forward in my understanding. Because I've always worked on the principle that whatever I know, there's always more to know. And so from that perspective, you're always not just aware that there's more to know, but you want to know what that is.
1 second, stop. Is the internet's not connecting? Okay. So you were saying about how it varies on what your day's like. And if you're basically writing a book, then basically you get up at 5 and you start writing till 6. What about breaks, breakfast, lunch, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I might have a bit of lunch, but I'll eat the lunch at the desk while I'm working because I've always worked on the principle that whatever I know or think I know, there's always more to know. So I'm absolutely fascinated to know what more there is to know that I don't know at that point, and so it's like it's like a passion of mine in the sense of it's not like work. It's doing it and finding out more all the time, and dots connect and realizations come and insights come. It's fascinating, and because I publish my own books. If you write for a publisher, run-of-the-mill everyday publisher, then there's lots of things that they do that you don't do because you just write the book. But in my case, there's lots of things that I do that other authors wouldn't do. Like I get all the pictures together, I do all the captions, I decide what the pictures are going to be. I interact with Neil, who puts the books together, and always, it must drive him bloody mad. Always, I'm right up to the thing going, literally this time as well, the thing going to the printer, and that's out of my hands then. I'm still adding bits, and I'm still tinkering with bits.
There's hundreds of pictures as well, by the way. It's like hundreds of figures.
Yeah, because I think, especially when you're dealing with
Literally over 200.
Yeah, when you're dealing with concepts that are not kind of everyday, having a visual as well as the words is very helpful, I think, to make the point that you're making.
Yeah, and do you type or do you write with a pen?
No, I type. Yeah, two-fingered. Do you know when my football career finished at 21, I decided I was going to be a journalist. That's what I wanted to be. And I left school at 15 to play football, never took a major exam in my life. And, newspapers were asking, what degree you've got and all that stuff. And I used to say, well, I played for Oxford United for a while, and I used to pass the university on the way to the ground, and that's about as near as I ever got. But a series of, again, synchronicities. Someone who knew someone who I met once got me into journalism on a weekly paper in the Leicester Mercury Group that's no longer with us. It shouldn't have been then, if I'm honest. And it covered every area of Leicestershire except where anyone lived. So there was the Leicester Mercury, that was for the whole of the county. That was a daily. And then there was a small paper in the group for different areas like Loughborough, and there was a Oadby and Wigston Advertiser, I think it was called. There was another one. So everywhere where no one lived, that's what the Leicester Advertiser, as it was called, covered. There was more sheep in my patch than there were people. And so what you do is you'd go and talk to the vicar in the village and ask what was going on, or you'd go into the post office, talk to the lady there, what's happening, anything happening. And I remember, I'm going to be a journalist now. And it was at the time when I started of the 3-day week, Ted Heath and the miners and all that stuff. So a few weeks earlier, I was running out to me goal with the crowd shouting, David Icke, David Icke, David Icke, as I was coming into me goal. And a few weeks later, after my career ended, I found myself sitting in a parish hall in some little village in Leicestershire while everyone sat around the open gas stove to keep warm. Because you couldn't go in, even in the main little hall, you couldn't go in because the restrictions on stuff.
Yeah,
and you were sitting there, and the councillors, parish councillors, were discussing street lamps and stuff like that. And I thought, this ain't really, Watergate, Woodward and Bernstein. But I'd got my foot in the door, and the crazy thing was that once I was on a newspaper. When I went for other jobs in journalism, they never asked me about educational qualifications. They just wanted to know my experience in journalism. So getting on the Leicester Advertiser was the start of a long journey.
Well, I love that. And the thing is, the reality is, you're right. No one, once you get a job, no one cares about your degree. Like, no one, and I actually don't want my kids to go to university. I don't want them to pay and be indebted up to £100,000 just to be indoctrinated and brainwashed. Hey. Anyway, very quick question then. So when you're not writing a book, what's your morning routine like? Do you go out? Do you go for a walk?
I like to walk, but most of my focus is research.
Even when you're not writing a book?
When I'm not writing a book. It's less intense because, the intensity of writing a book and all that information starts coming to you. But you're still looking, you're still observing, you're still keeping up with events.
And where'd you get your research from?
Everywhere.
Your sources?
Everywhere. Books, personal experience, people I meet, things that I read from various sources. It's like putting the puzzle pieces together in a jigsaw puzzle. And also, when you're researching, you want many different sources of confirmation. It's not like you come to a conclusion on the basis of one piece of information. Like, for instance, I went to America in 1996, talking to nobody, by the way, nobody was interested. But as I traveled around from place to place every day, literally every day, in a period of 15 days, I met 12 different people who told me they'd had the same experience. This is how the synchronicity of my life has worked in the last 35, 36 years, is that a subject will come into my life out of nowhere, and suddenly information on that subject is freaking everywhere coming at me, right? So they told me that those 12 people, that they'd had the experience of seeing someone who appeared to be human change into a non-human form, reptilian basically, although it's not always that, and then back again. And you see, what you don't do is don't say, it's the reptilians, right? What you do is this is my technique anyway, you think, okay, what? But you don't dismiss it. Unless you know from previous research that it's nonsense, you don't dismiss it. I put it on the back burner and let it simmer away. And I'm waiting for more information. And if more information doesn't come, I'll leave it there. But what happened with that subject is more and more information came, more and more and more. And eventually you cross the line where you think, this is real. And then you start talking about it publicly. You don't do it the other way around, because you can make yourself look a prat. I mean, see, I'm not bothered whether people laugh at me or not. I'm not bothered if they abuse me or not. What bothers me is, can I justify what I'm saying? Does the evidence that I've compiled justify what I'm saying is the situation? That's the only criteria, no other criteria, because a long, long time ago, not least because of all the ridicule, massive historic levels of ridicule I had in the early 1990s, I let go of the fear of what other people think.
But you know what? Some of the stuff, like Yaldabaoth and the Archons and the reptilians, there isn't any evidence. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's not the case. I mean, I'm open to everything. I'm open to frickin' everything, but there is no hard evidence to prove any of this. Or, like you said, was it Lush, the Lush farm? I mean, we'll come to that in a second. I mean, I'm open to that as well, but I mean, there's no hard evidence. That's the problem.
Well, you say there's no hard evidence. I mean, what I tend to do, one of the techniques that I use is I'm looking at ancient legends, ancient stories, and then I'm looking at modern science, and I'm seeing if there is a confirmatory connection between the two. I'm doing that all the time. And when I'm talking about there being we're living in a simulated reality, well, you go back to Gnostic writings, you go back to a lot of ancient legends and stuff. And then increasingly, you're looking at modern scientists saying, well, it does look like we do. And if we do, it makes a lot more sense of physics, etc., than if we think it's all natural. So what I'm doing in the books is I'm putting together this ancient and modern information, and then I'm presenting it to people. And what I'm not saying to them is, you must believe it. I couldn't care less.
It's funny. And you know what? I think there's lots of different people who say the same kind of thing. Like Paul Levi talks about we're all in a waking dream. There's other people who say that this whole world's just like a hologram. You know, you're not the only one who's described it that, or it's a matrix or a simulation. So I'm open to all of that. Anyway, going back to your daily routine.
Yeah.
I mean, because how old are you now?
73.
I mean, you look great for your age.
Thank
Very
you.
busy. I mean, I'm just trying to get to the health tips, because it's honest health. Like, do you exercise much? Do you meditate? How do you keep yourself in such a good shape? Because you're busy as well.
I go, yeah. Well, I like to be, but I go out on a walk. I try to walk for an hour every day if I can. Not always manage it. Do I meditate? Well, it depends what you call meditation. Whenever, like in the early days of the 90s, I used to try to meditate, and I'd always nod off, I'd wake up. But what I have noticed over a long, long period of time is that I daydream all the time. So when I'm writing a book, I'm sitting there, and part of me is focused on the information, and part of me is just daydreaming. And it's like the daydreaming part is you're kind of getting the conscious mind out of the way, and you're opening the channel for something else to come in, and you get these insights and these inspirations. I'll tell you one of the things that I say that appears to be far out, though more and more people are starting to go, well, hold on a minute, is that the moon is not what it seems to be. And I'm sitting at my computer one day, and this kind of thought came through my mind out of nowhere. I wasn't even thinking about it. It said, the moon's not real, right? So the moon's not bloody real. What's all that about? So I thought, well, I'm not going to dismiss it. I'm just going to have a look. And I came immediately across a book about the moon not being real by two researchers. I think they were connected to Freemasonry at one point anyway. But they were, Who Built the Moon was the title of the book. So I bought that immediately, and I started reading it. And then you come across other stuff. You come across these two Soviet scientists in 1970 writing a long article in Sputnik magazine, as it was, talking about the fact the moon's not real and why there's so many anomalies on the moon. And you start to realize just how many anomalies there are that don't make sense. So, suddenly you're into a new subject, and all this information is coming towards you. And
so what are the anomalies?
Well, first of all, something of that size shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be circulating a planet as small as the Earth, for a start.
It's also a long way out.
Say again?
It's also a long way out.
Well,
do you know it's like 30 Earth diameters away? So you could fit Jupiter, Saturn, all the planets in the solar system between Earth and the moon. It's a lot further out than people realize.
Yeah. So why is it circulating? Why is it circulating the Earth? And when you look at the official scientific orthodoxy, it makes no sense. It's the double whammy kind of theory, whereby a Mars-type planet collided with the Earth when the Earth was forming, and then when the physics of that didn't work out, they said, well, it must have come back and hit it again or something. And then you look at the makeup of the moon and the makeup of the Earth, and the moon's not come from the Earth. But again, what you do is you don't just stop with one source. You're looking at multiple sources. So, there's Zulu legends and other legends around the world that the moon was not always there, that it was brought here for a specific reason, and that it is there to fundamentally affect human perception and the way that humans cognitively operate. So if you look at the moon, well, first of all, we are supposed to be full of water, and you've got the tides coming in and out because of the moon. It's well known that the moon phases affect the hormonal balance of the body. So the moon is having a dramatic effect on the Earth and the Earth's atmosphere just by being there. And then you go on, because you never stop, and you then talk to people who have been in the US military, have operated in underground bases, who talk about interacting with reptilian entities and grey entities in the deep underground military bases, who also tell you that actually the inside of the moon is where it all is. It's not on the surface. It's inside. That's where all the activity's going on. And then you look at when they put sensors on the moon, and then the moon has been hit by a massive strike, and the sensors have indicated that the inside of the moon is hollow. It's not a planet as we. It's not a body as we perceive it. Inside is one NASA guy described. He said when there was one particular massive strike of the moon, he said it was the way it reacted, the way the moon reacted was like there was gigantic hydraulic struts inside it, holding it together rather than it being a solid body.
All right, so do you think we've been to the moon?
Say again?
Do you think we've been to the moon?
With the technology that is supposed to have been used, I don't think so, no.
I'm very skeptical too.
Yeah, too.
I'm very skeptical.
See, I remember I was playing for Coventry City. A lot of people kind of, may not remember this unless they're of a certain age. I was playing for Coventry City, and the moon landings were going on, and Coventry had a youth hostel out on the back of the ground, a house where young players used to live. And I went there that day at the time, to watch the moon landings and stuff. And there was a time when a lot of people don't remember this. I remember it very clearly. The live feed from the moon was cut. And they said, we're going to put in basically shots of practice shots, like preparation shots to cover till we get the feedback. And I was looking at this stuff, and I'm thinking, well, it don't look any different to what I've just been looking at, And when you look at have you ever seen that the craft is on the moon, and they're leaving, and it goes up, and it's like watching Thunderbirds, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's like watching really bad special effects, and then
And who films the camera as it pans up? I get really confused.
Who's doing that?
Who's doing that?
And then you've got the story of Stanley Kubrick.
I know, yeah.
And that makes absolute sense, because he was filming in the run up to it, which was a great cover, 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I've got a friend in America who's a filmmaker called Jay Weiner, and he did first of all a brilliant video. You can still get it on the internet, Jay Weiner, in which he took the special effects that Kubrick used in 2001: A Space Odyssey, and how he was doing studio shots and making sure that where the wall came down to meet the floor, that was always covered. There was always something covering that, because you would see it. And then he would cut to the moon shots. It's exactly the same technique. It's a brilliant video.
Okay, can I quickly just focus a little bit more back to your daily routine?
Sure.
When do you go to bed?
Oh, quite late most of the time. I don't need a lot of sleep, so I might be. If I'm writing a book, I'll go to bed a bit earlier because I know I'm going to get really early. But I can go to bed anytime between 12 and 1 o'clock.
Oh wow! So you only sleep 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah. And then I might have a nap in a day for 20 minutes. I find that if a short sleep in the day, and I'm up and I'm going again.
Do you drink much alcohol?
I have a glass of wine in the evening, yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
So apart from your walk, glass of wine, and not much sleep, wow, you're doing quite well. And you don't smoke or anything?
No, never have. Always hated it. My mother and father smoked. They stopped eventually, but when I was a little kid, and I hated it. I hated it all my life. Well, not hated it, but I've disliked it all my life. So.
And how many books have you published now?
Nearly 30.
Wow, that's prolific.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you another thing. Like, there's a lot of energy out there, good and bad. You can feel it. I like in-person podcasts because I can feel the energy of people. You seem to have a nice energy right now.
Oh, thank you.
But like, how do you protect your energy? When you're researching all this dark stuff, all this negativity. I remember the first time I came across adrenochrome and what they do to children. It was dark, and you can start going into the darkness. And I think you don't need to be a bad person to go into the darkness. I think hatred, anger, depression, hopelessness, these are all in the darkness. How do you protect your energy when you're doing all this research and remain in the light?
Become the observer. When you first come across this stuff, it hits you like a train. And you start to go down the road of the information basically starting to really emotionally affect you. But what I've learned over the years is to become the observer. And therefore, for instance, I can look at the horrors of Gaza. I can do whatever I can to highlight it and to point in the direction of what the game is, why it's happening, but not to get emotionally so pulled in that it starts to drain yourself. Because the way I look at things is, if me getting emotionally pulled in would help the situation, then go there. But if it won't, and you being drained of energy in response to something that's happening will not change what's happening at all. If you are drained by getting pulled in to the horrors of what is happening to the point where you're emotionally affected, but that you being emotionally affected and drained does not change that situation at all. There's no point in you getting emotionally drained. So you people say if you get emotionally upset and distraught, you stop thinking straight. When you take observer mode, you've still got that sharpness of mind, and you can see things that otherwise may elude you because you're so emotionally charged. So I've kind of learned to do that, and it's been necessary to do that because, from about 1995, 96, when I was traveling America, I started to come across, again, it was a subject came into my life, and suddenly endless information about it was hitting me from various sources, including directly with people who'd suffered it. And that was mind control, pedophilia, and the abuse of children. And, that pulls you in emotionally, obviously. And what you do is you learn to just become the observer and do everything you can to highlight it, as I have, but without being emotionally drained, because that doesn't help anybody.
It's hard.
So I was started to come across people in America from 1996 who had been in MK Ultra, the American Canadian intelligence military mind control operation, which was eventually marginally exposed in the 70s. The way the thing works, I met a lady in 1996 who, again, synchronicity, I was speaking for the first time on these subjects in America when I was invited to a conference in Denver, Colorado. And I turn up, and standing next to me, because you had little tables where you put your books out, standing next to me was a lady called Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips, her partner, who had helped to deprogram her from MK Ultra and a particular area of it called Project Monarch. Now, here's the story, and this is an example of the synchronicity of my life. I'm about 3 weeks earlier, when I've already agreed to go to this conference, and I've not heard of anyone else who was speaking because I didn't know anybody. I'd never been there. And a book dropped through my letterbox, and it was from an acquaintance of mine in Scotland. And there was just a note. It just said, "You ought to read this. This is fascinating." And it was a book called Transformation of America. And it was about as in transformation of America. And it was about the detailed story of someone who was taken from her satanic family with their approval as a 5-6-year-old, put into this MK Ultra.
So from abuse to abuse.
Yeah. And her name was Kathy O'Brien, right? So I remember I went upstairs and I sat on the bed and I read it. I read it in one go. This book was fascinating. And she was talking about Clinton and Cheney and Father George Bush and all the abuse that they had inflicted upon her and her daughter, Kelly, who I later met. And 3 weeks after that book dropped in my lap, I'm standing next to her, right, in this conference in Denver, Colorado. We became great friends with her partner as well, Mark Phillips, who's no longer with us. And you start to realize, it's something I've been trying to get across all these years, the scale of evil we're dealing with. You're dealing with a scale of evil that does not have any capacity for empathy, any capacity for compassion. And thus, I always call empathy the fail-safe mechanism of human behavior, because if I have empathy, if I can put myself in the position of those I'm affecting, it's going to affect the way I treat you. But if you have no capacity for empathy, then there are no limits. And there are no limits with these people. I mean, not only would your Netanyahus and that whole crowd not have any empathy or compassion for the Palestinians they were bombing, they'd get off on it. You know, I say to people, when people say to me, oh, they'd never do that. No. You would never do that. They would do it and get a high on it. So we're not dealing with the same mentality, and it's switching into understanding the scale of evil.
Honest health coaching is exactly what Doc provides. He truly exceeded my expectations. Ahead of the call, I'd provided a quite detailed and lengthy breakdown of my circumstances with specific questions to be covered. Not only had he clearly gone through this meticulously, he had deep dived the topics in depth so that his feedback was incredibly relevant, expert, and actionable. The consultation was a forum for him to ask further exploratory questions and present his recommendations and advice, all of which were superlative and way beyond anything I could expect from the mainstream medical industrial complex. Doc had obviously spent several hours in advance preparing for my call, and the experience has left me motivated, empowered, superbly well informed, and stunned but relieved that this degree of transparency, honesty, and compassion is available in a healthcare setting. Folks, if you want to pick my brains, if you want to have an educational, empowering consultation with me to help you get your health back on track, then book a consultation with me. Visit my website, docmalik.com. I would love to help you. Right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Bloody hell. Hopefully we'll salvage what we've already recorded. I don't know if you remember where we were last. You're talking about, the States and stuff. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Right. Carry on, my friend.
Where I was.
Yeah.
What was that? What was the president that followed the Watergate president, followed Nixon?
Carter?
No, the one before him. He used to say he could chew gum and.
Was it Ford?
Ford, yeah, Gerald Ford. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the one. Okay. Ready when you are.
Go for it, yeah.
So to give you an idea of how this whole thing works, what Kathy O'Brien says in her book is that a guy came along to her house to take her from her satanic parents and take her into MK Ultra. And his name was Gerald Ford.
Oh, wow.
He was a politician at that time, local state politician. And when eventually, because of the force of evidence that was coming out, they had a MK Ultra inquiry in the 70s. It was Gerald Ford who was involved in MK Ultra, and the guy who ran the Rockefeller inquiry was Nelson Rockefeller, his vice president. So, the people that investigate often and inquire into why something has happened and what have you, and what happened, are those that were involved in it happening. And it's certainly the case with Kathy O'Brien. So when you read the true horrors of what happened to her, and I went on to meet loads of others in America and other parts of the world who suffered the same stuff. And you have to go into observer mode. Otherwise, you just destroy you.
It's like surgery. So when you're doing medicine and surgery, if you take on the energy of every patient and think about them as if it's your child or your loved one, it's too much. You have to put a mental barrier up.
Yeah.
And it can make you appear maybe cold and aloof, but you have to do that. Self-preservation. You cannot have that energy as if it's like your loved one you're operating on every single time.
Yeah,
it's too much.
I completely understand that one, and I've had to develop that ability, and it allows you, like I said earlier, to keep your mind sharp without not thinking straight because you're so emotionally connected, and you see things you wouldn't normally see. And again, this whole thing about the child abuse, the mind control, the MK Ultra, and it's going on all over the world, still going on under different names. What's happened through my life in all these different subjects is a subject comes into your life, and then information's coming from all angles on that subject, and then as time goes on, you get layers and layers and layers of more confirmation. So when the Jimmy Savile story broke after he died in 2011, and now we have the Epstein story running, all these make total sense because of what you've researched earlier. When, if you'd have said before it actually all came out that this BBC entertainer, Jimmy Savile, was a mega historic level pedophile who was into having sex with dead bodies, which is why he used to volunteer as a porter at a Leeds hospital, and that he was into Satanism and what have you, people would call you mad, totally mad. But I knew he was before it came out. It's just that who's going to believe you?
Do you know what? Who is going to believe you? There's a movie out called The Wicked Witch, number 1 and number 2. I didn't like number 1. I actually walked out after half an hour. It was just so woke. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And but you know what? The kids and the wife wanted to watch the second one. I was like, okay. I took a book with me. I said, look, if I don't like it, I'm going to leave. Strangely, I stayed. The second movie was actually quite good. It's about the Wizard of Oz and everything. And it was very political, and they were telling the truth. The Wizard of Oz said to this witch that was being blamed for everything when she was a good witch. The wizard said, look, what do you want me to do? You want me to go out and tell the crowd the truth, that I'm a liar and I'm a charlatan? Okay, I'll do that. But guess what? They won't believe you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I tell them the truth. They want to believe what they want to believe. And that's why nothing will ever happen to me. And it was a very powerful moment. He does this whole 10-minute, speech, and in breaking down how you have a cult-like figure, how the people will refuse to believe the uncomfortable lie and choose the truth, the uncomfortable truth, and will rather choose the comfortable lie, even though it's there smack in their face. It's insane. This is human nature, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, it's the nature of humans as they're manipulated to be, and this fits in with the whole way that I see how this conspiracy works, because you've apparently got 8 billion people in the world, so we're told, and the number of people in full knowledge that are driving human society towards this dystopia, this AI digital dystopia, is tiny by comparison. Okay, so how do the few control the many? And then look back through history. How have the few always controlled the many? What you do is you look at your target population, and first of all, stage one, you want them to have rigid, unquestioning belief systems. They can be religious belief systems, they can be political belief systems, they can be cultural belief systems, but you need them to believe without question. And what happens if you have a religious belief system or a political belief system? There are limits to what you can explore in terms of possibility, because you go beyond the limits of your religion and that will start to crumble. If you want to stay with your belief system, and humans that have been, I've never had this, funnily enough, but humans do have this tendency to want to be part of a group. And you're going to leave the group, and the group's going to turn on you if you go outside of the parameters of the belief system. And so I have a way I see the world, but I have a way I see the world at any point. If new information comes that I find credible, I'm quite willing to go in the direction that it's leading me. I mean, through these decades, I've gone deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, and it's been no pleasant experience to then communicate what you're discovering, because it's so far out to the perception of normal that people laugh at you, ridicule you, and hurl abuse at you. But you either want to know what's happening or you don't. And if you want to know, they'll keep asking questions, and if you do, you'll keep going deeper in the rabbit hole. So it's not like you have a belief system. It's like you have a way of seeing the world at this point. But rigid belief systems, they are literal prisons of the mind, and you won't go there because this won't survive if you do, and you want this to survive. And therefore, all these belief systems, whether left or right in politics or whatever, are denying people the infinity of possibility beyond them. And so once you, as a few, have got your target population broken up into rigid belief systems, you then can play them off against each other to divide and rule the target population, so that they are fighting each other and in conflict with each other. And they're not looking up to see that the same hands are holding the strings of both of them. So if you, I mean, the way the whole system's played is, from an observer point of view, it's almost funny. You've got Trump now in America, who is using the left to justify tyranny. In Britain, you've got Starmer, supposedly the left, who's using the right to justify tyranny. But if we would only just stop and say, look, let's just put aside the differences we have in belief, religious belief or political belief or whatever, just put aside that just for a second, and let's focus upon that force which is manipulating all of us. But that doesn't happen because people are too caught in the myopia of their own belief system. And, I talk in the roadmap about religion at some length at one point. And of the 8 billion that's supposed to be in this world, apparently 5.4 billion are said to be the Christian, Muslim, or Hindu, or identify as. And so then you ask, well, where do most Christians come from? Where do most Muslims come from, or Hindus? They come from that part of the world where that's the dominant religion, or they come from families in other countries that are of that religion. And if you take the Christian in the southern states of America, and you have them born in the Middle East, are they going to be a Christian as they are now? No, they're going to be a Muslim. So you're not looking at a way of seeing the world that comes from, overwhelmingly, there are exceptions, of course, to everything, but overwhelmingly, you're not looking at someone who's sat down, looked at all the possibilities, and concluded this is the one that I believe is right, you are looking at a belief system that's come from where you live, who you live with, and the environment in which you were brought up. And so belief systems are massively inherited. They're not conclusions from an open mind, they're inherited. And once you've got, as we're seeing now, once you've got these rigid belief systems, you play them off against each other. You play Muslims off against Christians and so on. And your target population's at war with itself, just what you want.
Absolutely. Right, listen, I want to ask you something. Have you ever heard of samskara? You ever heard of samskara?
Samsara?
Yeah, samskara.
The wheel of samsara.
It's basically the cycle of birth, life,
wheel of samsara,
death.
the Buddhist thing.
Yeah.
I write a lot about it in the book.
Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism. It's this cycle of like you're stuck in the cycle.
Yeah.
Like you said, like this loosh form.
Yeah.
And basically moksha is the way you liberate yourself out of this cycle.
I write about that in the book and all.
Yeah. And then the way to do that is you want to get out of this ultimate spiritual cycle and escape to the oneness that is, the universal consciousness, God or whatever it is. But you have to overcome ignorance and desire, and you have to find duty and knowledge and devotion. I mean, that's what you're kind of like, well, that's what we have to do, isn't it? We have to escape this reality somehow. What practices do you think, or do you practice, or do you recommend? How do we escape from this cycle, perpetual cycle?
Self-identity, I would say. See, from my perspective, our infinite identity is one of formless consciousness. It's a state of being aware, and we're part of an infinite state of awareness. And if we're going to experience different bands of frequency, we call realities, that's what they are, bands of frequency, then that consciousness needs to have a vehicle which is resonating within the frequency band it wants to experience, so that it can interact with it. Because our consciousness, your consciousness, my consciousness, all consciousness is vibrating too quick to me picking that up. The difference in the consciousness frequency and the frequency of that is so vast, you wouldn't be able to pick it up. So we take on what we call bodies. I say the physical body is how we obviously experience this so-called human reality. And I say that this simulation has another level, which is where the wheel of samsara comes in. And that's this astral level, which interpenetrates this one. It's funny, people talk about heaven or the afterlife, they kind of tend to look up. But actually, everything in all infinity exists in the same space we're sitting in now, but it's on a different wavelength. Therefore, we don't have access to all of it. We only have access to that which we are currently experiencing. And one of the things that really struck me long time ago now is just how narrow the band of frequency is that we call the human world, and the narrow band of what's called visible light, that narrow band of what we can see. So, you say to people, can you see everything in the space you're looking at? And they say, well, of course I can see everything. Well, you can't. You can only see a certain band of frequency, and everything else exists outside of your ability to see it. So when people say, well, why can't we see these entities? Well, you can hardly see anything, mate. That's the answer to that. And so everything is in this reality is about frequency, and in this simulated reality is about frequency. And so you've got this simulation. You've got the human level of it, which is an incredibly dense frequency, it seems. And then you've got this astral level of it, which is more ethereal compared with this, but still has a density. And the simulation in totality is a range of frequency. If you stay within that range of frequency, you stay within the matrix, and you go on the wheel of samsara, going in and out of the astral into the human and back again, and on it goes, just as you've described. But if you go beyond, in terms of your frequency, you go beyond the limits of the simulation, you're into the infinity of consciousness. You're not in the matrix anymore. You're not in the mind prison anymore, the simulated perceptual prison cell. So then the next question comes, well, how do we do that? What keeps us in here and what sets us free? And it's the same answer, I would suggest. It's perception. And the key perception of all perceptions is self-identity. How do you see yourself? How do you see your true self-identity? Now, obviously, within this massively manipulated world we call human, people self-identify with being human. They self-identify with the color, the race, the nature of their vehicle. It's all it is. And their religious belief or any other belief, political belief. And what is well established is that every time we think or feel an emotional response, we are generating a frequency. And if we are in a state of fear and resentment or depression or anxiety, or these low frequency states, it's a low band of frequency. If we feel joy and happiness and love, it's a higher frequency. And so the totality of what we call our perceptions is the sum total of our thoughts and our emotional responses, and crucially, it's dictated by our self-identity. And basically, you're given two self-identities to choose from, overwhelmingly, not in every case, but overwhelmingly. One is, I'm just a body, this is who I am, and I come out of nowhere, some primordial soup or whatever, and now I'm this human. And when the lights go out and the body ceases to function, then so do I. And then you've got the other belief, which is that some judgmental God is judging you on one life, nice man, and that you are down here and he's up there and you're subordinate and you have to please him. And you then believe that you have a thing called a soul, which I say is the body that we use to experience the astral. And at that point, you are at the mercy of the God. Then you have others that believe that this is some form of trap, including me, and that what's actually happening is when you leave the body in your energetic state, when the body ceases to function, I can come to what that means in a sec, you then go into the astral, where you are told that you've got to go back into the human world to learn lessons for your evolution. All you've got to do is, and I have, listen or read endless accounts of near-death experiences and see the constant common themes of what they're told. When the body ceases to function briefly, they find themselves in another reality that's completely different to this one. And then they have the light at the end of the tunnel or whatever. And there's a sequence that they pretty much all describe, not every last one, but overwhelmingly. And it involves you've got to go back to learn more lessons to evolve. And then I've talked to people and quote people in the books who say they have a memory of the between human life state. And first of all, a common theme that they talk about is they can remember their incarnation process of coming into this reality. And they all talk about how extraordinarily dense this reality is. It's like living in treacle energetically. And they also talk about the preparations for this next life to work through your karma and your lessons to keep evolving. But of course, what happens is you leave the body and there's always more to learn. So you got to go back again. And this wheel of samsara just goes round and round and round. And people, and this is why it's so important for people to grasp this before they leave the body, because then they're streetwise in not to get scammed again. And if you leave the body and for instance you're a Christian and there's a figure that looks like Jesus telling you to come up the tunnel to the light, you're gonna freaking go.
So what are you saying? Don't go?
Don't go, no. And so let's look at this a question again of frequency. The idea, both in the human world and the astral world, is to keep you within the frequency of the simulation. So, because I asked the question, I've traveled the world a lot and over the years, and before I started getting banned, and the vast majority of people in the world are not having a good time. They're struggling to survive another day around in places like Africa, South America, Central America, Asia, and also in the West too. So my question was, by which time I thought reincarnation is real. I've seen enough evidence to come to that conclusion long ago. But why? And my question was, I can understand that consciousness could be manipulated into this reality once, but having experienced it, the vast majority of people anyway, when you leave the body and you're in this other dimension, you'd go, well, I'm not going back there. It's a shitty place. But we do, and constantly do. So why?
Could there be a fourth option? And what I mean by that is, like, if you listen to Alan Watts, what he spoke about, it's like, God is this consciousness, and it's like this massive super mainframe computer, and it wants to experience infinite experiences, and it gets, it knows what pleasure and joy and bliss is, and it can have that for a million years, and then it goes, you know what, I've had enough of this now. I'm going to hive off little bits of myself. So this mainframe computer creates little tiny mini computers, and each one will be, will feel as if it's its own entity when it's actually part of a bigger whole, but it'll be made to forget that it's that bigger whole. And it's created in this world or simulation, whatever you want to call it, simply something that us, parts of God, can experience life. And that's what it is. And it's not a negative thing. It's not some farm energy thing. It's simply somewhere where we can experience things.
I've heard that story. I've heard the story many times. I fundamentally don't agree with it from my own research over the last 35, 36 years. And I think it is a way of somehow explaining why this world is such a shitty, horrific place for so many people. And if you just analyze that from being in a human body and taking on that belief system, you are basically entering the realm of, we're here to learn lessons, or we're here to experience. And therefore, all the shitty things are just another experience.
But there's a lot of good things in this world too.
Yes, there are.
Nature is beautiful. Families are beautiful. There's love. most people are good people. I mean, there's a lot of goodness.
Yeah, that's I would suggest, because consciousness can still express itself if it allows itself to. But you know, it's all right, you know, talking in the West, you know, in nice places sometimes, and saying, yeah, but there's lots of love and there's lots of this and that in the world. Yes, I accept that and I acknowledge that in the book. But the vast numbers on this wheel of samsara just keep coming in to have another shit experience before then having another one. And so, you know, my conclusion from the evidence that I've seen is that this is a closed loop for a reason, to keep us perceptually within the bounds, as our perceptions generate frequency and dictate the frequency we're operating on. If they can keep our perceptions in a state that means the frequency we're operating on is within the frequency of the simulation, then we stay in this wheel.
Do you think they use trauma to entrap us and keep us in this?
All the time. And most people in some way are traumatized from their experience. I mean, just, you know, okay, what's God trying to fricking learn from what's happening in Gaza since October the 7th and so many times before? What's God trying to learn from the First World War and the Second World War? From Nagasaki and Hiroshima? What's he trying to fricking learn from? And the more that you look at this, you can see why these things happen. Now, when I talk about self-identity, if you self-identify as a human body, that's who you are, that's the I. It's not an experience you're having, which it really is. It's a brief experience, actually. It's an I, that's who I am. Then you are self-identifying with limitation. You're self-identifying with I can't, it's not possible. And your frequency will reflect that perception. That limited perception will dictate a limited frequency. You then see yourself as some kind of soul who's subordinate to God. Okay, so now you're talking about, yes, there's an afterlife, but it's still within the simulation. For me, you ask what I do to respond to this. It's for me, it's very simple. The whole thing's very simple in the sense that you self-identify with your true I. I'm not David Icke. That's an experience, name for an experience I'm having. I'm not a soul. That's how I would experience the astral. I am a state of infinite awareness, a state of being aware. I am a state ultimately of infinite awareness. I'm an expression of it. You notice if you, in many, many, many religions, you talk about I'm an aspect of God, that's blasphemy. It's the last thing they want you to believe is that you are an aspect of the infinite whole. That you've got to be subordinate. You've got to be God-fearing. I love that one. But the point is that if you self-identify with being your I, your true I, being a state of awareness and infinite awareness, you become the observer again of your human experience. You're not in the world and of it. You're in the world physically, but you're not of it in terms of your perception of the world. And so when you leave the body in that awareness of self, infinite self, there's no wheel of samsara. You're out of here. You're out here because your frequency is vastly greater than the frequency that is seeking to hold you here. That's the way I see it anyway. And
you know, when I took my magic mushrooms and went on a trip,
yeah,
I felt I entered this awareness that you're talking about, this universal God consciousness awareness. And I felt so much bliss and joy and happiness. I wept in that state because I knew I would never be able to describe it. And when I came home and told my wife what I experienced, I said, the problem is, imagine I looked across this Swiss Alpine vista and beautiful sunset and everything. And then you said, well, can you draw it for me? And I got a piece of soiled toilet paper and a big fat red crayon and tried to reproduce it. That's the best I can do. Nothing I say will give it justice as to what I experienced. And I think that is where we should be going.
Yeah. Well, what if you think about it? Human language has developed to describe matrix experience. So if you experience beyond the matrix, beyond the limitation, beyond the prison cell mind, there simply isn't the language to describe it. You have to experience it to understand it. But the whole point is to keep us here by controlling our perception. Now, this brings us to something that's unfolding so fast before our eyes now. If you look at how we form perceptions, we form them from information we receive. They might be an experience, they might be the 10 o'clock news, there might be a Facebook post. Anyway, the totality of information we form our perceptions from. And that means that that which is behind the matrix has to work constantly and totally to continue to dictate perception by controlling information. This is why this global cult that I talk about it was behind the creation of what we call the education system. Look at the Rockefellers in America. J.D. Rockefeller is behind all that in America. And it's behind the global media. It's behind Silicon Valley and the billionaires and the tech bros. They are controlling the information we receive as much as they possibly can to dictate our perceptions, which dictates our frequency. What they want to do, and what we're seeing unfolding now, is to go to the next stage. They want to be able to deliver our perceptions directly. And that is the reason they want to connect AI to the human brain and fuse humans with artificial intelligence. Many years ago now, this guy, Ray Kurzweil, this Google executive, talked about by 2030, where the humans are going to be connected to artificial intelligence. And in his words, once that has happened, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking and emotional response until human thinking as we know it now is basically negligible. And this is the hive mind I've been warning about, was the plan, all this a long, long way back. And we're now in the middle of this race to, well, 2030 is a target year, but this race into that period to connect us to this hive mind, because then they don't have to manipulate information anymore to dictate perception. They just give you your perceptions direct, and people think, oh, I'm thinking my own thoughts. Oh, I'm having my own emotional reactions. But you wouldn't be. It would be dictated to you. And so,
by the way, I get that, because we already have hive minds. We already have most of humanity.
What is a belief system? It's a hive mind.
Yeah, hive mind, whatever it is. Belief in whatever God they're believing in, belief in whatever politician they're believing in, belief in the vaccines. There are people who aren't thinking for themselves. There is hive mind mentality, cult-like behavior, but there's still the possibility that these people might be able to break free. And I think part of this whole transhumanism is you won't be able to break free.
That's a spot on. Is the point I've been making very strongly, is when AI is delivering your thoughts and emotional responses, is it going to ask, who am I? Where am I? Who's running this place? What's this place all about? Where do I come from? Where am I going? It won't ask these things, because the AI won't ask. And there's another level to this. You know, what I've been saying, what I lay out in the book, is that there is a global cult of secret societies, fiercely compartmentalized. So most people in the secret societies don't know the big picture, but the inner circle does. And it's driving. It works through countries, governments. It works through corporations. It works through Silicon Valley. And its global reach is literally global. So this cult is borderless. It controls China as it controls the United States, as it controls Europe, etc. And it's answering to this astral level where there are entities that have created this simulated fake reality, and it is working on behalf of their agenda. And once you reach that level of understanding where it's all coming from, then you start to see how the whole thing is controlled by them, and not just the right or the left or this religion or that religion. The whole frickin' shebang's controlled by them. And so you are looking at a simulation which, as I've said in the books over the years, is not run by people pushing buttons. It's run by a form of artificial intelligence that is way beyond anything we even see now here. And it's running the whole show. And what they're doing now is bringing the artificial intelligence knowledge into the human reality, to completely take this over, both in terms of fusing artificial intelligence with humans, so we become artificial intelligence, and through this whole digital control system as well. So every last fine detail of our lives, down to our thoughts and our emotional responses, is actually then under control. Now, we talked earlier about there's love in the world, and there's joy in the world, and there is, and I acknowledge that. But that's in my opinion, that is consciousness expressing itself, despite all the pressures and all the manipulations. It's consciousness expressing itself. The idea is to make sure that can't happen anymore. By having artificial intelligence completely take over the human psyche, to the point where the only thoughts you have will be artificial intelligence thoughts. And then the next question is, so what is this artificial intelligence? I hear about AI this, AI that, AI the other, but I don't hear the question very often, what is AI? Okay, well, it's not one AI. You have algorithmic AI. You have the AI that learns from the data input of everything posted on the internet, is funneled into this AI, so it knows more about humans than we do. But there's another level of AI, and I say that's the AI they want to connect to the human brain, and that's that these entities in this astral dimension, it's their consciousness, it's their mind. So we become literally an extension of their mind.
Okay, hold on a sec. So I'm not sure about that, because I don't know. I just don't know.
Sure.
But I'm open to it, but I just don't know. But like these astral entities, where do they come from? Are they not part of the consciousness, the awareness?
Yeah, but okay. So is a mass murdering psychopath part of the same consciousness that you are an expression of?
No.
Well, they are. Because
yeah, I guess so.
Consciousness is consciousness.
Yeah.
But it's in a completely different state. You don't go mass murdering psychopathy. You don't see the world like that. Your perceptions don't go there. Theirs do. And so if you've got
but I would have thought that in that universal awareness and consciousness, pure light and bliss and peace and goodness, you wouldn't descend into that.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, they have, and psychopaths that we're well aware are psychopaths have as well. And what you're dealing with these entities are super psychopaths. They are, I describe it in the book as like a schism, like a distorted expression of consciousness, where basically it's so distorted that everything is inverted.
Well, there's a lot of that right now.
Yeah, everything's inverted. I mean, you look at Satanists. What do they do with their symbols? They invert them.
Yeah, and listen to it. I mean, I just heard a speech by someone called Melanie Phillips. Don't know if you heard of her.
Yeah, I have. I used to be on the Daily Mail a long time ago.
And she's talking about how there's a holy war of Muslims against the Christians and Jews, and how they're being massacred by these Islamic Muslim people, and how they're, the Jews and the Christians are victims. And it's like there's a war being waged against them. And I'm like, there's a war being waged in Palestine, and it's not them. It's like, but everything was inverted, and like they're the victims, and not the Palestinians. And it's like, what the heck? It's like, it was a complete moral inversion. Everything.
Well, I've been saying all these years that the cult is an inversion, and the consciousness behind it, the consciousness that drives the mentality of this astral level, or not the whole astral level, but this part of it that's involved in this, it literally is so distorted, it inverts everything. So like I say, you've got the inverted cross as a satanic symbol, you've got the inverted pentagram as a satanic symbol, and so on. Everything's inverted, and what they want is for us to become them, and they've been doing it in a process, and the last real big step is to fuse them with the human mind, so we become an extension of them. And so many things started to make sense to me when I realized some long time ago now that these entities are feeding off low vibrational human energy, which
there's a lot of that around.
Yeah, which means that they have no incentive whatsoever to have a world of joy and happiness and peace and respect and all these things. They want the opposite. They want low vibrational emotional responses, hatred and fear and depression and anxiety and all these things, conflict, war. And if you look through what we perceive to be human history anyway, it's been a constant theme of the few controlling the many, not least by having the many broken up into belief systems that can be played off against each other, common theme. And it's been a constant generation of low vibrational energy.
Okay.
When you think about the First World War, the Second World War, and what's happening in Gaza and what's happening around the world when you're trying to survive another day or another week,
I know
you're generating this low vibrational energy. Now,
but you know what? Can I quickly tell you something? What I have the issue with that is, I still want to hold on to the idea that we can raise awareness and consciousness for the majority of humanity and make this world a better place. Are you arguing that this simulation is just rotten and this is it? Like, we cannot improve things because this is the way the system is designed, and I just find that difficult. I just find that, because that just kind of resigns to the fact that, there ain't much we can do about it, because this whole matrix is designed to be evil and horrible. Well, I don't want it to be.
No, because none of us want it to be, but it's whether we look at it and think, well, that's just the way it is and we have to face it. But can we make this world a better place? Absolutely we can. Of course we can. What is creating the world that we are experiencing? We are.
Our thoughts
And our emotions and our perceptions of reality and the perceptions of self.
Yeah.
If they transform, this world transforms.
Yeah.
I've not spent the last 35, 36 years trying to get this across just for the sake of it. I'm trying to get it across because, you see what, even in this apparently manipulated world, what it could be. You see in the joy and the kindness that you see. I mean, do you know, since I was a kid, I've never cried through sadness, ever, as I can remember. I've always wanted to, if I come across something that makes me sad, I want to put it right. That's my response, not tears. What makes me cry? Always seeing people happy, seeing expressions of kindness. That's what makes me cry. And
that's nice.
It always has. So I'm well aware of what this world could be if we open our frickin' minds from the prison cell perceptions and let the true eye in. This place could be transformed. And the influence of these apparent gods, as they are perceived by some through history, actually a bunch of prats, pathetic. Their influence disappears once we start to connect with consciousness. So we can change this place for the better. And at the end of a human life, when the vehicle ceases to function and releases consciousness into another dimension, we can get the hell out of it, back into infinity, and no longer be in this trapped environment. But you know, if you look at all the different cultures around the world, they all, I didn't realize just how widespread it was. They all have these pantheons of gods, all of them. And they call them different names. And they, of course, are, because they have different languages and different cultures. But what the penny drops when you realize that all these different pantheons of gods all over the world are the same gods. They're these astral gods. And you know, when I started to see about this louche situation where they're feeding off this low vibrational energy, which has been given the name louche, then you start to understand why, which confused me in the early 1990s when I was putting together this cult network and how it worked. And I realized that these key players and a lot of the not so key players were taking part in satanic ritual, including human sacrifice ritual. And you go, what the frickin' hell? Why? Then you realize that the ancients, you remember the ancients were doing human sacrifice rituals to the gods openly. Now it's done in secret because it's no longer acceptable. And my question was, what do the gods get out of this? Why would the gods get anything out of a human being sacrificed, right? And then this whole louche idea, you start to grasp it. And then you talk to Satanists around the world, some of whom were literal Satanists and some of whom were experiencing the rituals against their will for various reasons. And they confirm the story that basically what's happening is that the rituals are conducted to generate maximum terror in the victim in the run-up, because there's a long run-up before it all happens. And they're generating this terror in the victim. And, you know, if I look at you and you're in an emotional state, I can see pretty much how you're feeling by your facial expressions and your body language.
I don't have a poker face.
What I cannot see is the energy that emotional state is giving off. Why? Because that's an astral phenomenon. It's outside of visible light. I cannot see it. None of us can see it, but we can feel it. You say, well, got bad vibes off him, or, oh God, see the vibes coming off them. You can feel it, but you can't see it because it's going into the astral. And these entities are overseeing these rituals, these human sacrifice rituals, and they're feeding off and absorbing the energy of terror, which is a very, very powerful low vibrational energy. And the other thing that happens, which explains something else, is that in states of terror, an adrenaline enters the blood in response. And that's adrenochrome. That's the stuff that
well, they have that in that cartoon Monsters Inc. where they harvest the screams. It's freaking insane. Folks, as you know, I have no sponsors for the show, but I have got 4 affiliate codes with companies that I work with. And I've used these companies and I've used their products, and that's why I recommend them. The first is Hunter and Gather. They produce a range of food products without seed oils in them, from olive oil, MCT, ghee, mayonnaise, whatever. It's fantastic. We've been using it for years, and I'm delighted that I'm working with them. If you visit my website, go to affiliates, you'll see my code, and please make sure to use it when you're ordering anything. Another one is Sea Greens. Now that's based from seaweed, and it provides you with biocompatible iodine, which is essential for your thyroid and hormonal health, as well as all the essential micronutrients. If you want to know more about it, there's a podcast that I did with Simon Ranger. It's absolutely fantastic. Again, all the details are on my website. Then there's a water distiller company that I use. And then lastly, a sauna company, Heracles Wellness. They do a range of things from hyperbaric oxygen to saunas to cold plunge. And again, I've done a podcast with Keith Wareski, who is one of the owners of that company, and it talks about the benefit of sauna and cold plunge. So folks, do visit my website, docmalik.com. If you go to the top bar, there's an affiliate section and all the details are there, as well as all the codes and discounts. Okay, folks, back to the show. Anyway, can I ask you another thing? And because I know time is limited. So there's a booming spiritual practice now around the world, right? But I look at a lot of it and it's kind of like fake ass. Like there's a lot of fake ass Christians, fake ass Muslims, fake ass Jews, fake ass spiritual gurus and whatnot. Do you think that's part of the nefarious agenda to lead people away from true enlightenment? You know, all this new age stuff and God knows what else.
You know, the way I see it, it's like you're on a motorway, a freeway, and you're heading towards remembering the true self, the true nature, and there are slip roads all the way along to slip you off and put you in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, and
you think, I've got it now. This is it. No, you're in a cul-de-sac. Because we've never got it within a human body. We've never got it.
You're never awake.
No, you're never awake. You are awakening. You're getting more of it. And anyone who says, I'm awake and I've got it now, well, you haven't. None of us have. We're awakening. And there's all these slip roads to take you off into the cul-de-sac. Religions is one. The New Age is another. The gurus are another. And they're all trying to get you out into a cul-de-sac so you don't keep going deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole until you go, so that's who I am. That's what I've been all along. So yeah, I agree with that. You see, it's one of the things that I've written about over the years is how complexity is constantly used to hide the simple behind it. So, you know, I when I first started on this journey, I went to America in 1996 to speak to nobody, it seems, but I attended a few of these New Age conferences and stuff. And I saw the kind of guru figures on the stage, and they would get massive audiences, you know, and I was put in the smallest room at the end of the night and there's nobody there. And it was, they were making it all sound so complex. Like you have to go on a quest and you have to do this and you have to do that. And you know, it was a complexity. And if you look at life in general, it seems incredibly complex. There's all these different elements to it, but actually behind it is a real simple truth. And so I don't go along with any of these different beliefs or these different cul-de-sacs, for me, what I perceive myself to be is what I will be. What you believe, you perceive. What you perceive, you experience. And that is a physics explanation of that as well. And so self-identity as a state of infinite awareness is all you really need, and not a conceptual one. Not a conceptual one. I kind of identify conceptually with the fact that I'm infinite awareness. You fricking know it.
I get that. And that's in your chapter. I'm going to come back to the book in a second. I want to ask you a few questions because like a lot of people reached out to me and said, oh, you know, when you have David Icke, can you ask this question? So this is from one of my friends, you know, the Dalai Lama. Is that a whole CIA thing going on there?
I don't trust that whole thing. No, I don't trust that.
What do you mean?
I don't trust guru. I don't trust the whole guru mentality. The idea,
but do you think he's part of some CIA operation business?
Well, whether he's knowingly part of it or whether he's used as a means to control, I mean, only he will know. But okay, what do they do? You have your Dalai Lama, and they die, and then they start searching for the next one, and various criteria, and then humans, decide, oh, this is the new one. He's a reincarnation. Okay, so now he's the spiritual leader. Now, what are you doing? Look in the mirror. There's your spiritual leader.
I keep saying that. All the freaking time. Right, next. So another guy reached out to me and said, oh, you need to ask him about this. You know, Bill Cooper. Yep. He didn't speak nicely of you. He said, David Icke is a piece of scum. Why did he say that? And he said you're in the same class of people as Alex Jones.
I've no idea why he said that. Bill Cooper, for me, he was in naval intelligence. So he would have...
I've had the book and it's like, yeah I'm not sure about
Behold a Pale Horse.
Yeah.
And he would have had some knowledge from that perspective. But Bill Cooper, I think, allowed his I've got it and you haven't to completely dictate his way of seeing the world. And he was a classic example for me of someone who created his own reality. There's a lot of people that, you know, love Bill Cooper, are not going to like this, but I think he did. I kept hearing him saying that the feds were going to get him.
He talks about that in the book. They're running him off and they're chasing him. There's cars and it was. I was like getting bored of it.
And I remember reading here, you know, quotes from him. So some years ago now, quite a lot of years ago now, and I thought, you have to be bloody careful, mate, or you're going to create the reality you're talking about. And he got shot by the feds, didn't he? He got taken out by the feds, and I wasn't surprised. Because what you believe, you perceive, what you perceive, you experience. And if we only realize that, you know, there's not these things that happen to us are not random. They are in so many ways a manifestation of our own perceptual state. I remember once being in Italy, talking in Italy. And before the start, there's this bloke, and a big bloke, and he's following me everywhere, right? I went to the toilet, and he came in and stood there. And I thought, what the hell? So I go to the organizer. I said, look, excuse me, mate. I said, this bloke is following me everywhere. He says, oh, yeah. He says, that's your bodyguard. I said, I don't want a bodyguard. You know, a bodyguard to me is saying, I accept that something bad could happen to me. I don't accept that. So therefore, I don't need a bodyguard, thanks. I don't need a bodyguard just to protect me from something that I am not going to manifest.
Is that why you're still alive when so many other people are dead?
Well, there's a lot of people still alive, and but if you look at my history, the ridicule and the way I was seen was my protection for a long time. Because if I'm this cult and this guy who's come in right at the start of this journey as a perceived nutter, complete crazy man, then you're quite happy for me to talk about the fact that this is happening and that's happening, because people they think he's freaking crazy. The problem has been that as what I was talking about then has come to pass, and my books are now out there. If they took me out now, well, in an overt way of any kind, then my books will be circulating like crazy. What was this guy saying? So that was like that gave me a honeymoon period. It didn't feel like it, all the ridicule and abuse, but it gave me a honeymoon period where I could do the research, I could put stuff out, but I weren't seen as a problem. But now I'm seen as a problem. But and the other thing is that if it was possible, and again, it comes down to perception. If it was possible for you to come in to try to make a difference, and then they took you out, if it was that simple, what's the frickin' point? What's the point of even coming here? There is a protection mechanism for those that will connect to it, who are have an awareness that can connect to it. That stops you being taken out in that simple way. I mean, I've been into some really apparently dangerous places and dangerous situations, and I've not even heard a car backfire, mate. You know what I mean? It's like nothing's happened. People say, "Oh, you can't go there. This will happen. That will happen." Well, only if you believe it will. I mean, some people walk through a park over and over and over again, and nothing happens to them. And one person walks across that park for the first time, and they get attacked or something. We are not only putting out frequencies based on our perceptual state, we are attracting frequencies. I call it vibrational magnetism, and we can pull people in. We can pull people in that, for instance, give you information in a very synchronistic way, or we can pull people in who are deeply unpleasant. It's I
agree,
but it's keeping from us the understanding which brings a very simple state of self-responsibility. While you're blaming everyone else for everything, you are externalizing what's happening to you, when actually you are creating it. Your perceptions are creating your experience reality. And if you're externalizing blame all the time, you're still going on doing it, but you're not recognizing that actually what's creating your reality is you through your perceptions. Now, this cult system knows that. That's what's passed on, or one of the things that's passed on through the initiations of the inner circle, and is kept from the public in all the forms of information that we're given. And so you know that if you can collectively impart a perception in the population, an individual or collectively, then that perception will manifest a reality. This really is the reason for preemptive programming. If they can keep, and according to psychology anyway, 95% of human behavior comes from the subconscious, not the conscious mind. and their target is the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to get in all the time. This is what symbolism is all about. They're all talking to the subconscious. And if you can implant in the subconscious a sense of reality, a sense of what's going to unfold, then that perception will manifest that collective society. So if you can keep putting movies out that keep portraying this dystopian society in all its digital and AI forms of control, then what you're doing is you're implanting that subconscious belief and in the inevitability of this, and you'll manifest it. Collectively, we'll manifest it. This is the level that the real manipulation's going on, not Trump or Harris.
Right. Another question. Theosophy. Are you a believer in that? Or a member of that?
No, I gave it. I said a long time ago, if you can give me a name for what you believe, you're in a prison. So the fact that it's called something, it means it's a prison. Everything just is. We are just are. And once you give something a name, then the rules, the regulations, the belief system.
So you don't have anything to do with that?
I had nothing to do with it, no.
Because, they had lots of ties with occult stuff, Germany, British India, Gandhi promoting him. I mean, it's just, Annie Besant, I don't trust any of those people.
Well, I don't touch anything with you, but, it's like everything. I remember an insider said to me once, you've quoted a disinformer in your books, but you've only quoted the bit that's true. How do you do that? And I said, well, this feels right. What else they say doesn't feel right. And you can get that sensitivity eventually when you do it for a long time. And you think, yep, first of all, that what he's saying here feels right. And also I can cross-reference that with other tangible information. So I'm going to quote him on that. But I'm not going to quote him on that because I don't think that's right. And that's how you do it. So you can quote, for instance, people from the Theosophy environment, but it don't mean that you accept everything else they're saying.
So it's like basically Tommy Robinson's saying a lot of right things. There is like a mass invasion, mass migration business. But he's not right about everything, and he's not right about what he's not talking about. And basically, sometimes the best lies are the ones that are quoted in 90% of the truth. So are you saying something like that? So they might be saying some things right in Theosophy, but then a lot of things are wrong?
Well, it's done on purpose. If you are telling 100% lies, then most people, or at least anyone with a modicum of intelligence, is going to suss it. And I've called it since the 1990s, gin and tonic with a twist. You give a certain amount of true information because you're trying to pull people in. You're trying to pull people in who have some awareness and know that that is true. And this is what I've said to people over the years. Take what people say sentence by sentence. Don't, because they say one thing you know to be true or supports your belief system, don't just take it then that everything else they say is true, because that's how disinforming works. You've got to be really streetwise on it. And so I will listen to people and I can cross-reference that. Yeah, okay, I can see that, but I'm not having that. And that way and if you quote someone from like Theosophy and on something you think, well, yeah, that's right, I can cross-reference that. They take it, oh, you're a supporter of Madame Blavatsky then, and all this stuff.
What is it that you agreed with or quoted? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but it's basically about reality, just things about reality. So yeah, everyone says something that's true, and it's judging what it is, But the old Theosophy thing and the Lucifer trust, the lucid trust, and all this stuff, I don't have anything to do with that, because first of all, it's got a name, therefore it's a prison, and there's a lot of dark stuff connected to it.
Right, last one I'm going to give you that's a tough one, and then let's get back to the book. Someone sent me a picture of you, and you've got your hands like this, like a little triangle, and you're looking for it, and they say, "Look, he's a Freemason. He's a Freemason." Are you a Freemason?
Of course not.
There you go, folks.
I do want to speak on this.
Please, I do, because this is why I want to give you the opportunity to just put this to bed.
Well, I won't put it to bed.
Okay.
That's the point. Because it doesn't matter what I say. I remember there was a picture that was posted on the internet some time ago now of me with a group of Freemasons, and I've got me the apron on, all this stupid fucking regalia they have on, and someone had taken my face and stuck it on this bloke. And fortunately, lots of people believed it. Oh, I always knew he was. And unfortunately, there's a bloke next to me who, if the guy I was supposed to be was that height, the height of me, then he's 8 freaking foot, right? So, because
you're like what, 6'3" or something?
I'm 6 foot, something like that.
6'6"?
No, 6 foot. 6 foot.
Okay.
About 6 foot. I was a goalkeeper.
Okay.
And my boys are taller, but so someone then went around the internet and they found the original, and they put that up, and it obviously wasn't me. It was somebody else, some bloody northern group of Freemasons. And then someone else has taken a Freemason's body and they put my face on it, except they've taken my face from the back cover of one of my books, right? I always knew he was. And so at that point, people go, oh, no, it's all made up and all that stuff. And then a little bit later, someone finds that picture on the internet and it all starts again. So it's of no...
By the way, just FYI, I've been accused of being a Freemason. There's this channel on X talking about Freemasons, and I came across it because they made a comment, and I was like, oh yeah, I agree with that. I'm looking down their channel, scroll, and suddenly I pop up. Yeah. Doc Malik is Freemason. I'm like, what? Look at this clip, 33 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just random. And there's like, look, another clip he made, 1 minute, 33 seconds. I'm like,
yeah.
Jeez Louise.
It is extraordinary. For me to be controlled opposition, okay, that's the usual thing. Okay, so let's take us through this. In 1990, they decide that I'm going to be the one to expose them. And I expose them. I get tremendous ridicule and abuse and stuff, and I expose them. And what I say eventually comes true and all that stuff. And this whole awareness of things that were absolutely people weren't aware of in 1990, overwhelmingly, starts to expand. Where's the benefit? Where's the benefit for them of what I've done all my life? There is none. Where the benefit?
Maybe you were doing the predictive programming. Maybe you're preparing and laying down the seeds. And remember, it's all about beliefs and thoughts. And if this is what people think is going to happen, then it is going to happen.
What I've always said from the start is this doesn't have to happen. It's happening because humans have given the power of their perceptions to other people. They've given them to the few. They've allowed themselves to be programmed to believe what they do, and to believe in their own limitations, to believe in the omnipotence of authority, all these things.
You know the diagram, the one that Gareth made of the pyramid,
Yeah.
and how can you just describe that? Because I think that's what you're talking about. How the many always, well, there's few control the many below them, the tiers.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that you can't question authority. And ultimately, in that chapter where you talk about solutions, the solution is we need to stop obeying authority and blindly giving them power. I mean, just fucking say no.
That's why I've said all along, this does not have to happen. People have said to me, how have you predicted the future? And I say, I haven't. What I've done is predict the plan, what they want to happen. And the fact that it has continued to unfold means that there's been no significant intervention to stop it. Why? Because the same process continues of people giving their minds and perceptions away to authority.
Talk about that pyramid.
So the pyramid, again, the simple behind the apparently complex. When you said to people, I remember the early days, when you said a few people control the world, they say not possible, impossible, mate. It's actually very, very easy once you control the perceptions of the population and the sources of information that they receive. So you think of a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid is the inner circle of this cult, which directly answers to that astral level of manipulation from where it's all coming from. The inner circle tell the level below them what is going to happen and what they want to happen. They then tell the next level. And very soon after you come down from that pyramid peak, you're hitting levels that don't know there is a cult, don't know there is a conspiracy, don't know any of it. But what they're doing is they're looking to the authority perceived to be above them. What's this line? Oh, it's come down from on high. I don't know. We better do it, though. That kind of mentality. Or, you know, if you don't do it, then you'll lose your job or whatever. Even though you may have sussed why you're being asked to do it. So you keep coming down, and what it's basically an imposition, acquiescence, imposition, acquiescence, imposition, acquiescence. And eventually you come down the pyramid to the bottom of the pyramid, and that's where the vast majority of humanity are. And if they then acquiesce to the imposition of that level that's imposing upon them within the pyramid, and that's your governments, your law enforcement, your corporations, etc., then a electrical circuit basically has been created between the mass of the population and the tiny few at the top, because the will of the tiny few at the top and the inner circle of this cult, through imposition and acquiescence, has imposed its will. And we're talking at the real peak of the peak, you could sit around one table. They've imposed their will on the entire human population. And I give you no better example than COVID. You had this cult orchestrating this response to COVID, orchestrating the whole COVID hoax. And through imposition and acquiescence, virtually, not entirely, but the great vast majority of the human population responded to the will of the few at the top without even realizing there are a few at the top. But it's imposition, acquiescence. And, you know, when you've got 8 billion people and you've got a handful by comparison that are in full knowledge orchestrating this, the The mathematics alone tell you where the power is. You know, if you come out of Downing Street or the White House and say we've had a meeting and this is what we've decided is going to happen, if enough people say we're not doing it, we're not doing that, where's their power? The power of authority is not with authority. It's with the acquiescence to authority by the population. That's the point. And, you know, people say, what are the solutions? Well, how about this word that has got a really bad press, but is actually a fundamentally important word? No, I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. Where's the power? So what are you going to do? We're not doing it. Mass of the population is not doing it. What are you going to do, Mr. Politician, Mr. President? What are you going to do now? What about your master in the shadows? What are they going to do about it? Nothing they can do. But what they therefore do is manipulate ways to get that collective power to be given away. So for a long, long time, it was given away to the genetic succession of the monarchs. And then when we started to not have that, they created politics. So every 4 or 5 years, you give your power away to someone who's lied to you throughout the election campaign, to a party. And if you want to get rid of them, then you have to vote for the other party. And if you don't like what they're doing, you have to vote for that party again. And so it goes on. But in the period, like we're seeing with the Starmer government now, which was so-called elected on a third of the vote and got massive majority. How did that happen in a democracy? They have control they have control while we acquiesce to it. They have official control of the lives of people in Britain for the next 4 or 5 years from when they were elected. Where's the power of the people? And they're doing things that they said they wouldn't do in an election campaign, and they're not doing things they said they would, because there's no contract between the people and what you say you'll do if you get voted into government. None of that. And so they're always trying to find ways for us to give our collective unity, power, away to the few. Politics is a wonderful example. And so are the belief systems and divide and rule, because they know that when we unify, when we put down the fault lines of myopic belief, just put them aside and just look at what is targeting us all. Just look at what is seeking to create a dystopian nightmare, not just for the adults alive today, but even more for the kids and grandkids. I think it's worth putting the myopia down. I'm a Muslim. Oh, I'm pleased for you. But have you seen that? Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm pleased for you. Have you seen that? Because they want your kids and they want your kids. And they want you and they want you. And it's this division of focus on that has got us here. And if the division of focus on that continues, then they'll complete the job. But they don't have to. We have the power. We've just been manipulated to believe we don't.
100%. You know, I wrote a Substack piece where I said, just imagine where, you know, these evil people say to ring up a politician, prime minister, president, and say, I want you to do this. And the person goes, no, hangs up. Guy goes, what the heck? Rings the next politician along, like your president's not doing what I'm telling. I'm going to do a coup. I'm going to overthrow them. I'll support you. I want you to do this. And they go, actually, no, I'm not going to do this either. And they go through their little phone book and they ring all and everyone is like, just not even answering up. And they're like, they're getting really frustrated. They ring up the journalist. I want you to do a hit piece on this politician. Journalist goes, no, not going to do that. Sorry. Bye. No one's answering his call. Then he goes, right, chauffeur, take me downtown. I went, chauffeur goes, actually, nah, I don't want to work for you anymore. He's like, what the right, I'm going to order a meal. Cook's left. No one's in the house. No gardener. No security guard. No one is listening. No one wants their money. No one wants to do anything. That person might be in the biggest castle mansion, is fucking powerless. Powerless. Because everybody went, actually, you know what? Fuck off. No, not going to do it. That's what it takes. The problem is though, there are a lot of people who go, yeah, all right. Your Tony Blairs, your Keir Starmers, your little, presidents and prime ministers in Africa who allow their countries to be raped by the West. You've got so many yes men and women who go, yeah. So when the medical directors came for me and said, right, if you don't shut up, we're going to get rid of you and remove your practicing privileges, because they were told by their corporate lawyer or their CEO of the company, that medical director should have said, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that. That doctor's doing an ethical thing there. I'm not doing that. It's bullshit. But the problem is everybody goes, all right, okay, yeah, I don't want to get into trouble. It's coming up from above. Better do that. All right, okay. Comes down to, we enable the fuckers out there.
100%. I mean, COVID was such a fantastic example because it was so global and obvious in nature, where the pyramid system I'm talking about was so obvious. You had the World Health Organization, which is controlled by Bill Gates on behalf of the Rockefellers, on behalf of the cult.
What about the Rothschilds? You don't talk about them much. Same.
I've talked about the Rothschilds extensively.
I know, but
it was the Rockefellers who seemed to be behind the creation of the World Health Organization. And if you do the research, the Gates family and the Rockefeller family are very, very close, going way back. Some people who've studied bloodlines reckon that at some point they fuse. If you go back a bit. So they put out the criteria for responding to, quote, COVID. You then get the pyramids of the medical profession and governments in the individual countries. And you have the same pyramid system where they impose upon their particular country of influence the directives of the World Health Organization. And in this way, from under one roof, led officially by Tedros, who's a total and utter Ethiopian crook, the world responded globally to COVID in the way that was dictated by a tiny few people, just by imposition acquiescence. And that's how it works. And don't complain that things are as they are, and then say you're not talking about solutions. The solutions are staring you in the frickin' face. It's called put down your belief system and let's unify against a common threat. Let's cease. We don't have to fight it. We don't have to fight it. We don't have to go to war with it. We just cease to cooperate with it. No, not doing it. If people had responded to COVID by saying, we're not doing it, we're not doing these ridiculous bloody restrictions, where I saw grown men, big strapping men, go to the door of a cafe out the street, put their little mask on, go to a table, take their mask off, eat their dinner, put their mask on, go to the toilet, come back, take it off again, put their mask back on, to walk to the door into the street to take their bloody mask off. I mean, don't tell me that a few people can't control the world if you're prepared to do that nonsense. But if people had said, no, I'm not doing it. No, well, wear a mask, No, I'm not doing it. There'd have been no masks.
I always say, like, where were all the football hooligans? Where are all these big bravado? All right, I'm going to beat you up. Like, they were all put on the little mask. Oh, government told me, better do this.
Well, Scotland was a wonderful example because you had this lady leader who was dictating to the whole of Scotland. I mean, so if you didn't cooperate with her, where's her power? Her power through that COVID period was on the basis of acquiescence from the population.
But you know what the people will say to this? They'll say, it's very easy for you to say no, but if you're the first one to say no, you're going to take the hit. You're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your job. You're going to go hungry. You're going to be out in the streets. You might lose your life. It's like, for example, say there's a guy brandishing a gun and there's 100 of you. If 100 of you rush that one guy, he's going to be torn to pieces. But on the way down, he's going to take out 4 or 5 people. So out of the 100, everyone's like, well, I don't want to be one of those 4 or 5. So that guy with the gun controls all 100 of you.
Okay.
There's going to be some of you that are going to go down, and people are scared to go down. They don't want to be one of those 4 or 5 that take the hit.
Okay. So first of all, how badly do you not want your kids to be in a global dystopia for the rest of their lives? We have to do what we believe to be right. That's what I've been doing all these years and taking all the shit for it. But also, the COVID was another great example of what you're talking about, really, because in the early days of COVID, I mean, England was quite a vociferous pushbacker on COVID compared with other places around the world. Even within the British Isles, it was. And there were people who, in the early days, protested and broke the restrictions to protest. And there was a few of them, and they got picked off and they got arrested and what have you. And then eventually, I mean, I was walking down Oxford Street, like with about 100,000 people. That's the level it reached eventually. And the police are standing down the side of the street watching us go past. And as I was looking at that, I thought, well, here you go. Here it is, manifest in front of your eyes. Authority has no power if enough people say we're not doing it. And this is why I'm trying to get across this whole thing about put aside what divides you. You don't have to agree on everything. You don't. Just don't seek to impose what you believe on everyone else, and we'll get on. But let's unify on the threat to us all. And therefore, in much greater numbers, start to, and it doesn't have to be that big, really. We saw that with the marches in London. Let's come together in unity and mutual support so that there's not people isolated and doing it alone. We do it together, at least in great numbers. But it's having that initial courage to say no, because you've got 3 types of people in the world. You've got those people that say, I'm going to obey authority, whatever. You've got those people that don't want to obey authority, but fear the consequences of obeying authority. And they're responsible for every tyranny in history. Because tyrants don't impose upon the population. There's never enough of them. The population acquiesce to tyrants. That's the dynamic. The third group,
bingo.
The third group says, I can see what you're doing. I can see why you're doing it. And I ain't cooperating with it. I ain't doing it. And if you look at every tyranny that's been overturned, it started with that group. That and often small in number to start. And then people from the other group, especially the one that doesn't want to do it but fears the consequences, they can see actually, you can do it and be okay. And they then start joining the third group. And suddenly you've got this wave of people that bring down the tyranny. And it's funny, in the book, I tell a story which kind of symbolizes basically the area we're talking about. And it focuses on the fact that people are lied to by authority. Eventually, many of the lies come to light. But the next time authority tell them something, they fricking believe it again. And it was a story because when I was a kid, greyhound racing in Britain was very popular. And for those around the world who haven't come across it, you have a fake hare going around the track, and it comes past the what they call the traps where the greyhounds are. And as the hare comes past, the traps open and the dogs run and chase the hare. And they chase it and chase it and chase it until they pass the finish line, and then the hare slows down. And all the dogs go over to the hare and they're sniffing it and everything. And you think, I thought as a kid, I can understand why they'd buy it once. But then they're taken to the next track and the next event. And the same fake hare comes past and they chase it again. And they smell it and realize it's fake. And then the next one, they chase it again. And it's like, authority lies. It's its job. It's what it does. It lies because if you knew the truth, there'd be no authority as we now recognize it. It has to lie. Politicians have to lie because if they told you the truth of what they planned, you'd never vote for them. So they lie. And instead of giving your power away to politicians and believing what they tell you, how about coming together with your fellow men, women, and children and saying, we're not freaking having it? Because if we did that, it would be over. The house of cards, because that's what it is, would come tumbling down.
Absolutely.
A house of cards that we are holding up.
I agree.
That's where the power is. It's always been with us. But the trick is to convince us it's in the hands of the few. It never has been.
You know what I love about your book? It's, I know you go into a lot of things. I think it's because, like you said, there's this information war and the power lies with them because they have all the information and all the facts and all the knowledge, and we are deprived. We have no knowledge. We're blind. We're fumbling around. And this puts down like so much information that you can open your eyes, because you can't say no or regain your power if you didn't know that you'd lost it in the first place.
Exactly.
And you need that knowledge. And that's why this book covers so much. And that's why I'm not just saying everybody buy the book. Like, you really should get the book, especially for those people you don't like. Shove it in their face. And good luck and see what happens. But yeah, that's why what we're talking about, these podcasts, these events, what you're doing, what I'm doing, the Substack pieces, the reality is we need to counter this $1 trillion multi-generational, decades, centuries long, millennia long propaganda, brainwashing, indoctrination of humanity. And we're just in our little way trying to combat that wave of crap. And the only way, people can wake up is if they have the truth and the reality put in front of them, because they've been deprived of that.
What I've noticed over the years is there is what you might call the reflex action response. A few are controlling the world. Impossible. Don't be ridiculous. Not possible. But then when you explain the sequence and how it is possible, even intellectually, they're going, oh, well, I can see how it can happen then. And then they start to look at the world and see that it actually is happening. And suddenly their minds open. But the reflex action is always, because one of the greatest forms of mind control, and this is constantly used upon us, is to squeeze the sense of the possible. Mm. If you can squeeze people's sense of what's possible, then when people come along and say, this is what they're doing and this is how they're doing it, it's not possible, it's impossible. And it's overcoming that. And that's that, I go into so many things in the book, because what I'm really setting out to do is to say, hey, far more is possible than you being told they're possible. And it was like that with what's that guy called Strapenauer? It's a great quote, words to the effect of, people confuse the limits of their own mind with the limits of possibility. And that's been systematically done. Mm. So the limits of possibility of a Christian are the Christian stories. I believe in Jesus, I'll be saved. the limits of possibility of a Muslim is the Muslim story. And all the time they're trying to squeeze the sense of the possible. And what I'm trying to do is to expand the sense of the possible, because we do actually live in infinite possibility. So
yeah, I agree with that. So I'm going to wrap up in the next 10, 15 minutes. So I just want to ask you something. They say that you kind of know when you're in your last decade. Do you feel that? I mean, the average life expectancy is 78, so that's like 5 more years. So you don't think you're in the last decade?
No. Too much to do.
Love it. Love it.
Wouldn't give them the satisfaction.
Are you scared of death?
No. I quite look forward to it in a way, because the one thing that I've always focused on, I want to stay here until I've squeezed every ounce of what I can contribute. And once that's gone, well, I'm quite happy to leave. I've got infinity to explore. I've got forever to explore forever. Why would I want to stay here and this tiny band of frequency within this limitation of visible light? Why would I want to do that? What I really want to do is to challenge this myopia of information with an expansion of information, so that people can see that what they're told is not the only possibility or anything like. And then my job is done, really. I mean, I'm the one thing I'm not trying to do is convince anybody of anything, because I'd just be another guru with a belief system for sale.
No, I agree.
I'm just saying there's other possibilities, and look at the evidence of these possibilities, and then people just
you
make of it what they will. It's my job is done then.
You talk about in the book, like, the power of, what I mean, to all extents and purposes, manifestation, positive thinking. Funny thing is, 2 years ago, I didn't even know about manifestation. I was so in the matrix. Someone said that, like, what are you talking about? Manifest what? What does that even mean? I've really come to believe in that. 2 years ago, I was like, I want to create a really successful podcast. And I think I have in the last 2 years. I said at the beginning of January this year, I want my newsletter subscriber list to go from 9,000 to 20,000. Well, it's not even December yet, and I'm well on track for that. And little things like this happen. Like, I just put a vision in my head of what I want, and it kind of then happens.
Well,
so I think I need to start dreaming bigger now. I need that, because I'm still driving a rubbishy car, but I need to pay off the mortgage. But I'm just going to put these things out there in the universe, that I'm going to pay off the mortgage, that I'm going to be self-sufficient and independent, and I'm going to go from strength to strength. I think one of the things you were saying was the mindset is, we are to be ruled, and well, that's our lot. Well, if that's your mindset, you will be ruled. You need to think bigger and realize who you are, and you are eternal awareness, and you are an amazing creation. And you mentioned something there, which I talk about in the book, which is that if you can convince, and I'm talking about this cult, this astral phenomenon, if you can convince your target population that the few rule them, the few will rule them. If they start asking questions like, well, why do the few rule us? I mean, why should that always be? I mean, who decided that? Then you start to break down that sense of inevitability, which is actually creating the reality. This is one of the things I've been trying to get across in the book, that they are aware that if they can control perception, they control your experience. What you believe, you perceive. What you perceive, you experience. So the whole thing is on programming perception, because they know that will deliver a programmed experience. And so I've kind of looked into this whole area of quantum physics, and the way that they talk about the wave form of the quantum realm becoming the particle form, but becoming the particle form when it's observed.
What does observe mean? What's observation got to do with it? And the more that I've kind of looked at this, it seems to me that there is a very simple interaction going on between the perceptual fields that we create through our emotions and our thoughts. Vast amounts of it subconscious, not conscious. And as we interact with the waveform field level of what is basically all possibility waiting to manifest, and through our perceptual field interaction with that all possibility, all potential, we are pulling out a manifestation which takes the form of a particle form, material form. We're pulling out the possibility that reflects our perceptual state. So if you, for instance, not just focus upon wanting something, but absolutely know you are going to manifest it. That's the big power, knowing, not thought, knowing. Then that interaction with the quantum level of all possibility will manifest in your life that possibility. So we are creating our own reality. And I think in the realm of quantum physics, they're starting to get closer. I don't know how much they realize it, but they're starting to get closer to the actual manifestations process of how we do it. Because, as Einstein said, there's no such thing as matter. It's just energy condensed to a slow vibration. What is the slow vibration? It's that which is vibrating with invisible light. That's why we can see the table, we can see the walls and the lights, but in between them all appears to be empty space. It's not empty. It's infinity is in the space that we think is empty, but we're not able to decode that because the body will not decode beyond visible light. And therefore we see form, but between form is empty space. It's not, it's infinity. And therefore everything is an illusion. Even physicality is an illusion. And therefore what if you believe in physicality of everything, you believe in limitation. Because if everything is literally physical, then so much is impossible. You can't do that. You can't do that. Shape-shifting, impossible. But it's not impossible because it's not about solidity. It's not about the physical. Things are fluid and they are reacting to consciousness. They're reacting to thought. They're reacting to emotional states. And thus it is possible to interact your consciousness, your desires, your intent. That's the big, powerful interaction with reality, your intent. It's possible to manifest what you want rather than what society gives you. And they don't want us to know that. And one of the things that I've included in the book towards the end is a book that was written quite a long time ago. It's about the 1930s by a guy who interviewed, well, they were millionaires then, billionaires now. They interviewed loads of people, Rockefellers, all of them, and really successful, wealthy, rich people who we would call successful. And it's not just about manifestation of money, it's manifestation of the life you want. And they asked them what they did and how they basically manifested this success. And they were talking about visualization. They were talking about going into other realms of consciousness to manifest the success that they wanted, and that it followed. And this is what I talk about when I say there are two worlds. There's the world of the cult, where this advanced knowledge including manifestation, is passed on through the inner circle of the cult, and the cult creating the sources of information that the population get to keep them in ignorance of what they know. So these people that are apparently very successful invariably turn out at the top level to be the cult operatives. They're using these techniques we're talking about here. They just don't want us to know that it's possible to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only just begun, Doc. I've only just begun.
You know,
there's so much to come.
I know. And honestly, like, if you don't mind, I'll mention your hands. Like, when I was seeing patients, the ones that were nervous, anxious, oh, doc, I'm worried about being in pain after the surgery. And doc, will I be able to walk again? And will the bone fuse? And blah, blah, blah. And lots of questions. They would have problems. They would have complications. And the patients that I'm going through the consent with them and the risks. And, don't worry, doc, it'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. I'm like, no, I need to tell you. It's a legal thing. I need to go through everything. Yeah, I know, doc, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be fine. I'm like, yeah, I know. And they're like, don't worry about painkillers. I know I'm going to be fine. I won't be in any pain. And I soon realized if you had positive thoughts, positive outcomes would happen. If you came with negative thoughts, you would have negative outcomes.
Yeah.
I freaking saw that. And I didn't know the word manifestation at that point. I was just, as a surgeon, I was witnessing, if you went in with negativity, you fucking got negativity.
Yeah.
If you had positivity, you would get positive outcomes. And it's funny, like your hand, I was like really confused because you got this ulnar deviation of your right fingers in your hand. And I'm like, is he got funny duplitrons? Because he doesn't have it on his left.
Nope.
But is it rheumatoid? But rheumatoid or autoimmune conditions are typically symmetrical, and it's both sides, and it's progressive, and it gets worse. And you don't have that. So you've got no more pain. Your other joints are fine. Talk about what happened, because I think that's a sign of positive manifestation. You just went, no, I ain't having this.
Yeah, well, I joined Coventry City when I was 15. 6 months into my playing career, my left knee swelled up for no apparent reason. And for about 6 months, I didn't play, and I had all the tests, and was it blood sedimentation rate comes to mind?
ESR, yeah.
Yeah. And they were all negative, like in that period. And in the end, they said to me, well, does your knee feel strong? I said, well, it feels strong. It's just swollen. They said, well, you just carry on playing and we'll see what happens. Well, I then went into the most successful period of my career at Coventry City. I mean, really, really successful. And then the next season, after the really, really successful one, they loaned me to Oxford United because they wanted me to get to experience at a higher level of play. And my right ankle swelled up for no reason. Then my right knee, then my elbow. And you know, I actually carried on playing in a lot of pain for another 2 years. I went to Hereford United, who were in the league then, and we were very successful. We got promotion in the first year. I was only 20. I was young for a goalkeeper in a league team. And every morning I would wake up knowing that an hour or so later I was going to be in pain for at least half an hour. So I would, we would start training with a warm-up on a cold English winter's morning. And I'd be in agony. And I kind of became the club hypochondriac because I had to find a different excuse for why I was limping in the warm-up. Oh, I've got a bit of a blister. Oh, I've a bit of a pull. I'll be all right in a minute. Because if they knew I had arthritis, then they'd find a new goalkeeper. But the strange thing was, and this is another interesting point, is that in the games, the adrenaline, the focus, the concentration. I had no pain in the games at all. And I was very, very successful that season. And at the end of the season, I'm in bed in the close season. And but before I got into bed, I looked down at my left knee, and it was not swollen for the first time since I was 15.
Wow.
And I thought, I've cracked it. So I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I can't breathe. Not only I can't breathe, I can't move. My whole body is rigid. And I think I'm going to die because I can't breathe. It couldn't have been very long, or I would have died. And I'm trying to hit Linda, my wife, at that time, to wake her up. Couldn't move. Eventually, I gasped for breath. And at that point, it was like knives were going in every joint. I was in absolute agony. I went to bed a professional footballer, and I woke up never to play again. And so for a long time, I then went into journalism and what have you. And I was in a lot of pain. And they told me that the doctors said to me, you could be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30. And I said to them, I won't. No way that is going to happen. So anyway, I then go through a television career and what have you, and then into, and my hands were still okay then. They came a bit later. And then I had my head blow off and what have you. And I started to realize then that the mind was the governor, consciousness was the governor of everything. And there came a point where the arthritis was so bad that I was flying to India for a couple of weeks to at the invitation of someone I know. And I'm in Terminal 5 at Heathrow, and I literally can't put one foot in front of the other. So I'm shuffling along the floor like that because I can't walk. So bad. So I go to the departure lounge and I sit down, and they start queuing to get on the plane. And I looked at it and I thought, I'm going to wait until the last one's gone because I can't stand up. And I walked across to go in after everyone's gone in. And they put my boarding card in, and there was a ping. And I thought, oh God, what's the problem now? And he said, oh no, you've been upgraded to first class or business class. So I go on this plane because what I'm thinking of in the departure lounge, how am I going to sit in a freaking, cattle class seat to India? I was in business class. So I then got to India. I'm still in agony. Although I had I was able to sleep like in a bed. It was fantastic. And then the guy who invited me dropped me off at this place in the kind of depths of India. And I was in this hotel, and I slept for 48 hours. The curtains were closed, and I didn't know when I woke up briefly here and there, whether it was night or morning. I didn't know what time of day it was. And I had a lot of dreams and what have you. And what I thought was, okay, you say that the mind is dictating everything. I can prove it. Get rid of this. What are you doing? How are you going to continue to do what you're doing in this state? So I decided this was not going to, not only was not going to get worse, it was going to reverse. I was not going to be subject to this pain and this restriction of joints any longer. And that is the last vestige of the arthritis. I play football with the kids and grandkids. I can walk. I can do all the things that everyone else can do. Just got this hand, and there's no pain in that. It's all the pain in that's gone. And it's been like that now for I don't know, 20 years.
Wow.
And I won't have it, because I tell you another interesting thing that we talk about manifestation. Another kind of technique I use, if I'm not feeling very well, like I've got a cold coming on or something, or, you know, a bit of flu, and I've got something coming up that I really want to do and have to do, then my perception is I'm doing it. I see it. I'm doing it. I'm on a stage or I'm doing an interview or whatever. I'm doing it. And because you've set a point where you have to be fine or you can't do it, what tends to happen, it happens over and over, is the circumstances then manifest. And by the time you're supposed to do it, you're fine. You're not ill anymore. I've gone to bed feeling really not very well at all, with something to do the next day. And I thought, I'll be fine the next day. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to cancel it. And you wake up the next morning, you feel fine. Everything is mind. I mean, the placebo is a wonderful example. Perfect example of the power of the mind is far more powerful than the power of the reality imposing itself upon us. But they don't want us to know that, because the game's over when we do.
That's the magic secret weapon, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That's why they don't want us to know.
All right, listen, last thing. We're going to be on the march on the 13th of December. Fiona Rose Diamond is organizing it against digital ID.
Yeah.
Your boys, and you're helping with the stage and everything. You're helping a lot with the logistics.
Well, Jamie's doing it all, yeah.
Yeah. So why should we, how can we resist digital ID? I mean, the reality is it is here. They're funneling us into one silo, one gov login. Then they're going to marry that up with the wallet. Then they're going to marry that with the digital currency, then the programmable currency, and then the social credit score, and then we're totally fucked. Do you want to say anything? I think, guys, if you're listening, come and join us at London, 1 p.m., Marble Arch, 13th of December. Let's fricking tell the government. I mean, I personally don't think the government cares much about our protest, but it does do a couple of things. One, it tells all the people watching and listening and the late, public, this is an issue and you're not alone to think like this. There's a lot of us thinking like this, and it brings solidarity, raises the energy, blah, blah, blah. Secondly, it does give a warning shot to the government that we're onto them. We're onto them, because if we weren't protesting, it's like, oh, look, the sheep don't know and they don't care. Let's just ramp it up.
Yeah.
It is a way of saying to the government, fuck you. No.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that the scale of the protests over COVID that manifested in the end ushered the end of the restrictions faster than they would have otherwise have happened. And you're right. What a protest does, especially if it gets really big numbers, is it highlights a situation. And I mean, the last protest we did, well, you were there. It got in some newspapers, and the situation was highlighted where it wouldn't have otherwise have been in that case. But in the end, it's not about just protesting, though that's good. It's about not cooperating. And if enough people and companies will not cooperate, it can't happen. And this is the frustrating thing all the time. If we would just respond in unison, they can't impose these things. But, if enough people don't, then, we're going to have to start being really creative in how we operate outside of their system. Because if we go for it then basically what you're doing is you're putting your wrists out, waiting for the handcuffs to be put on and the ball and chain around your ankle.
And now David Lammy's saying that, they're going to get rid of trial by jury.
Yeah, trial by jury.
What the hell?
You see, this is what's happened. I called it the totalitarian tiptoe a long time ago. It's totalitarian sprint now.
Yeah.
Where you know where they're going because know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you don't know the outcome, then everything looks random.
Yeah.
If you know the outcome, you can see the stepping stones to it very clearly. And because, like I said earlier, this 2030 date, it's not necessarily stuck in stone, but it does symbolize a period they really want this stuff in. And we're coming up to 4 years away. So therefore, the whole thing gets quicker. And the big stepping stone is the digital ID, followed by the digital currency, which is programmable. It can dictate what you can buy and what you can't. And it can dictate even the area in which you can spend your money and the areas you can't. So it's all about control. And the other thing that's unfolding, and someone said to me this yesterday, funnily enough, they said, why is it that everyone's being made poorer? And, you look at Trump and the American economy and his tariffs and his chaos are tanking the American economy. And he's, oh, no, it's never been better in history. Oh, come on, you're tanking it. And you're gaslighting us while you're tanking it. And then you look at Starmer in this country with the ever-increasing taxation, ever-increasing deletion of people's basic incomes. And where they're seeking to take us is to a universal basic income, which is now being promoted massively by Elon Musk, absolute cult operative, to say, the universal basic income, it will be massive. You'll be able to do what you like, and all the robots are going to do all the work. He's selling dystopia lie after lie after lie every day, Elon Musk. So if what they want you in is a universal basic income, which will actually be a pittance, and it brings everybody down to the same level. Eventually, you'll have to spend the universal basic income within a certain period, or it will get deleted because they don't want people accruing savings that gives them choice.
You'll have to spend it on bug burgers.
Yeah, and so what they want is to destroy the status quo. You see, they're talking about the Great Reset, but while the status quo stays in place, there can't be a Great Reset. You have to demolish the status quo. They've been doing that in sequences all the way through what we call history. It's called creative destruction. The First World War, Second World War, all destroyed the status quo, so a new one could emerge. And the next one, the Great Reset, is the AI digital dystopia of total control beyond anything we've known in human history. And to do that, to bring that in, you have to destroy the status quo. And that's why we're seeing the system as it's been, the system created by this cult, but now going on to a new stage, we're seeing that being completely dismantled and people being made poorer and poorer and poorer because and more and more dependent on the state rather than their own initiative, because they're pulling people in to this universal basic income by taking the jobs away massively with AI and by tanking the economy to take other ways of earning your own independent livelihood away.
Taxation on the small businesses.
Taxation. They don't want small businesses, you see. People say, oh, this is not a good government for small business. Well, it's not meant to be. It's meant to destroy you. COVID was about destroying small business. massively, and they've continued it since, because small business it allows people to earn an independent livelihood. Overwhelmed, okay, they're within the rules of the state, okay, but basically an independent livelihood. And what they want is a few global corporations, Amazon's a wonderful example, to actually control everything that's purchased, and the whole system to be basically run by a few corporations. And so they don't want small business. They don't even want medium-sized business. They don't even want some more independent big business. They want their business to run the whole shebang. And what we're seeing is this happening step by step by step by step. And someone like Rachel Reeves, the so-called Chancellor of the Exchequer in Britain, who's introducing these budgets with all these extra taxations against what they said they would do. I mean, if you look at the UK government of Starmer and the cabinet, there's hardly two brain cells to rub together. You look at the cabinet of Donald Trump, apart from, you know, some serious manipulators like Howard Lutnick, his commerce secretary, there's not a brain cell between them. And then you look around the world, particularly at the time of COVID, say, and you see the moronic people that were running governments. So if you're moronic and you haven't got an original thought in your head, you become absolutely dependent on the civil service or the equivalent in each country, which this cult works through. Because the politicians come and they go, they come, they go. But the basic structure of what they call the deep state continues. And so someone like Rachel Reeves is at the mercy of her advisors. You know, when Liz Truss, I have no brief for Liz Truss, but she comes in as prime minister because she's won an election within the Conservative Party to replace Boris Johnson. But the system wanted Rishi Sunak.
Yes, it did.
And so she comes in and all hell breaks loose on the markets. She becomes the shortest serving prime minister in UK history. And who comes in to replace her? Rishi Sunak. This is how it works. So
we're like a banana republic now.
Exactly what we are. And so the closer you get to the outcome, the more obvious the steps are to the outcome. And that's where we are now. And they're tanking the economies on purpose. On purpose.
Are you doing anything to like be able to work outside the system, be self-sustainable? Have you got a farm? Are you growing your own food? I mean,
oh no, I don't have a farm. I have a house like everyone else. No, but we are talking about it. Yeah, seriously talking about it now, and how we respond to this. And how we bypass their rules and regulations. But in the end, you know, you create your own reality. And the principle of creating your own reality far outweighs the power of government and authority in imposing reality. So we'll see which one, we'll see the way it turns out. But
yeah.
You know, if I look at the situation that we're facing and I watch it unfold and I see the way, you know, humans are in their collectivity and stuff, I should be saying to you, we've got no frickin' chance. It's over. Just enjoy the rest of your life as best you can because it's over. It's over. But all the way through this, it's one of the things that's driven me on, is there's something inside said, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And because of this power of the collective to bring it down overnight, what's required is the perception of bringing it down overnight. The game's not over until the fat lady sings. And I don't think she's clearing her throat yet.
Okay, final question of the day. You know this one. We've already done this podcast at your studio. So you're on your deathbed many years from now, before you pass on to the next stage of eternal bliss. What words of wisdom and advice are you going to tell your children, your grandchildren?
What you believe, you perceive. What you perceive, you experience. Remember that, and you'll be in control, not some fake authority.
Thank you so much for coming, by the way.
No problem.
No, honestly, and like I said before we got in the studio, you are a legend.
Oh,
Yeah, and I really hope your book sells. I'm sure it will. I know it will. Your book will sell. And you'll be on your next batch of publishing. So, seriously, well done.
I've just got a really strong feeling about this book. Everything's about in the. We talk about timing, but it's not really timing. It's sequence. It's where something happens in a sequence, and I just think we're about to enter a period where humanity might decide it's time to roar.
It's a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah. Oh, well, God, yes. And we're always alive. So
yeah,
this is a crazy time, though, and a crazy place, but fascinating.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
David, you're a legend. You really are. Well done, you. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.